Today, there are animal communicators in nearly every country on the planet. And the profession of animal communication is exploding. For me, in 1970, that's when my animal communicator dream started. I was 5 years old. And at the time, there were no animal communicators. There were no animal communication teachers. There was no internet. There was barely even color TV back then. But that dream of becoming an animal communicator followed me through my whole life, through college, through graduate school, getting married, and starting my family. So, flash forward to 2008. I was just doing the math in my head. That was a long time from 1970 to 2008. I really wanted this dream to come true, and I didn't know how to make it happen. And so I'm like a little bit uncomfortable saying I used to wish on a star. When I would walk my dog Aiko every night after dinner, the stars would come out and I would literally say starlight, star bright, and first star I see tonight, I wish I may, I wish I might get this wish I wish tonight. This was my deepest dream and I was so frustrated because I didn't know how to make it happen. But I decided that I was going to figure it out. Like something clicked inside of me, and I was like, I'm going to do this. And I started looking into it. I had a young family. My kids were both under 10. They might have both been under 7 at the time. And I had a part-time job teaching college biology. And at that time, there were some animal communicators. So the early 2000s, there were definitely professional animal communicators and even some teachers. But I couldn't afford to travel for their week-long training sessions, and I didn't really want to be away from my family for that long. Their schedules didn't line up with me, and so I just had to figure out on my own how I was going to make this happen. I'm also fiercely independent, so that helps. I committed in my heart to learning how to do animal communication on my own. And so it took me a long time. It took years, and I struggled. And here's the thing, struggling sucks. But I struggled until I learned these 4 things that I'm going to share with you in this video. And I made one important shift, and that was the one I had to make in order to succeed. And I want to unpack all of that for you in this video. So, my goal here is to distill my years of trial and error and struggling into 5 tips that you can use to speed up your journey to become an animal communicator. Welcome to Animal Communication with Dr. Cara. I'm Dr. Cara, and this is a YouTube channel and a podcast. I'm a professional animal communicator, and I am the founder of the Animal Communicator Academy. My mission is to help all animal lovers become confident animal communicators so they can help their pets or become a professional or add animal communication to their current profession. And my vision is to have animal communicators everywhere that animals and people are together. So that's who I am, but who are you? Why do you want to become an animal communicator? In the comments, just type in pets if you just want to connect with your pets, professional if you want to become a professional animal communicator, or add AC if your goal is to add animal communication to something you're already doing professionally. I'd love to know who you are and what you're up to. But let's dive in to this content right here, right now. I've got 5 things to cover, 4 tips, 1 shift. So let's start with the 4 tips. How can I distill what I learned about becoming a professional animal communicator down to this? Well, this is my journey. This is what I learned. This is now what I teach, and this is what has helped me the most. So, number 1 is to start with basic intuitive skills as your foundation. Apply those intuitive skills to animal communication. So you're really kind of hardwired to do this work, and learning how to use the skills of intuition you can use in any area. There's so many applications, but they are foundational to intuitive animal communication. It's right there in the name. So when I started, I committed to becoming an animal communicator, and I saw two options. I could travel for training, which to me at the time felt very expensive and lonely because I didn't want to leave my family. Or I could get intuitive training locally and then figure out on my own how to apply those skills to communicating intuitively with animals. And so, as I've mentioned, based on my budget and other lifestyle constraints, I decided to take a 1-year psychic program, a psychic training program in my town, and that created some structure and accountability for myself. After that was done, that's when through trial and error, figured out how to do this animal communication thing on my own. And wow, was there a learning curve. But this is for you. So I want to really focus on what I did that worked, what didn't work, and what I would recommend for you to do. So here's what worked for me with my process. Number one, I learned solid foundational skills that automatically boost my intuition. They harness my intuition and they helped me understand my natural intuitive abilities. Learning those skills was like putting my intuition on steroids. I could use it anywhere, anytime. It was really awesome and still is, right? Um, the other thing I did was I had a teacher that had a curriculum and a structure. I was in a community of learners. We were all going through this together. We had 8 or 10 people in our class for that whole year, so I got to know them really well. We supported each other, we gave each other feedback. We had a weekly class, so I had to show up. That kept me progressing and it gave me accountability so that I stayed on track. I couldn't get lost, and fall by the wayside. And what I really like about this path that I chose is that it created a really strong foundation for all kinds of intuitive work and especially animal communication because that's my love, that's my passion, that's what I want to do the most. The challenges with this, what didn't work for me, was that there's more to animal communication than just intuitive skills. And so in the Animal Communicator Academy, where I teach now, that whole year of training is distilled into the first beginner modules of that program. So it's like the first third of the training or something. It's all condensed into there. And I really struggled figuring out the rest on my own through trial and error. And I had setbacks. I had a lot of upsets. I had, just like the natural trials and tribulations of learning something on your own when you don't have somebody to show you the path. And that's why I start with this one. And my recommendation for you is to find a good teacher, find a program on a format that matches your goals and the way that you like to learn. There are so many really good teachers right now teaching animal communication all over the world, some online, some in person. And so I really recommend to anybody interested in learning animal communication to identify a few things about yourself and your learning style first so that you start out with the right fit teacher for you. So, like, ask yourself, do you want online or in person? Do you want live or recorded lessons? Do you want to have interaction with the teacher? Do you want to have a support system in the community of other students? Do you want flexibility in how you can access the information or whatever? Do you work better one-on-one or in a group or alone? Like, these are all really important things to consider before you join a program, before you choose the animal communication teacher for you. So that's tip number one. Really create a strong foundation of intuitive skills as your very first step. So I'm curious about you and where you are. What kind of learner are you? Are you online? Are you active? Are you kinesthetic? Are you a reading person? Are you a doing person? Let me know in the comments, like, if this is stirring up some thoughts for you about, oh, I didn't think about it from that angle. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Let's do tip number two. So tip number two is to own your abilities, own your way of doing animal communication. So When I was learning, I followed my teacher's training, right? And I just did things the way that she did. But I'm a very visual person. She's a very kinesthetic person. So I was trying to do things her way and not my way. So it made it harder to do it that way. Eventually, and literally over several years, I evolved to do things my own way. But I had a lot of conflict and resistance. I thought I was doing it wrong if I wasn't doing it the way I was taught, but I was wrong about that. So find your way, take what you learn and make it your own. Don't try to be like somebody else. Try to take the principles and see how they fit with you. So you are the filter of what is working and what isn't working. So, what I did right here was eventually I recognized that I'm a unique individual. Intuition is hardwired in everyone. It's different in everyone. Just like, I give directions different than my husband gives directions. Like we just see the world a little differently, so we explain it a little differently. It's totally okay. In fact, that's great. That's one of the beautiful things about this work is it's so unique and individual for each person. What I didn't do well, what didn't work for me in my journey was I, in the beginning, was working against my natural way of doing animal communication. So for me, I find it easier to see intuitive information in my inner eye rather than feel it in my body or hear sounds or words or anything like that. Like my natural animal communicator type is a seer. I really like to see things. So my recommendation for you, based on, my struggles, is that once you have your animal communication breakthrough session, and let me just sidebar, what I mean by animal communication breakthrough session is as you're learning and practicing, you're probably going to feel like I'm making it up, it's not working, I'm only getting a little bit, I don't know if this is really good information or accurate or it's not enough or whatever. We're beginners. We're not doing it great yet. But there will be a time when you have an animal communication conversation where you're like, I did that. I know I did that because whatever, right? You know inside yourself that this is real, that you really did it, that you can do it. And so once you have that animal communication breakthrough session, then I recommend that you spend tons and tons of time doing easy sessions, just exploring your intuition and how it works. Because now that you've learned how to do it, you still need to figure out how you do it, right? Like it works in you, but how is that working? Why did it show up this time and not that time? And I really recommend that during this phase, like this middle phase, this kind of intermediate phase of learning, that you keep a journal and you write down everything that happens in your sessions, whether it's the content of you ask and what you receive from the animal, and also your experience. What is it like in your body when you're doing this? Do you get images? Do you get feelings? Do you get sensations? Do you get emotions? Do you hear songs? Like what is it for you? And is it fast? Is it slow? Like start really like being a detective about yourself. So avoid trying to be like anybody else and discover how to be more like yourself. What are you naturally doing intuitively? So for this tip, I want you to really reflect on whether you're trying to be like somebody else as an animal communicator. And maybe you already know what's your easiest, most natural, intuitive sense. Maybe you're just a very visual person. Maybe you're a very auditory person. And if you have a sense about what that is for you, what's the easiest, most natural way that you do things, right? That you navigate the world in other areas, how can you use that inner sense a little bit more? Think about that put a note in the comments if you've had an aha or an insight, and I'd love to hear about it. So that brings us to tip number three. And tip number three is to trust the animals and to put them in charge. So, as an animal communicator, you are here to serve the animals. You're not in charge of anything. Your role may be to, orchestrate and navigate these communications between humans and animals, but you're there to serve the animals. And this was a big lesson for me. This was a really big lesson. I think I was pretty insecure when I started going out and doing practice sessions with people. And then even when I started working professionally, I still had a lot of insecurities and doubts and misunderstandings. And one of those was that I thought that the person was the expert. And over time, I realized that the animals were the experts. And as I was, practicing, I practiced for a year before I ever started working professionally, even after. So my process was like at least 2 years of getting the skills before I ever started charging money. And I started charging money once I saw that I could really do this work at the level that I wanted to. But over that time, and even the first couple of years when I was a professional, I started to understand how humans get in our own way. We get in our own way. Our brains tie us up. We see things that we want to see. We don't see things that we don't want to see. And people are not the best source of information about themselves or their animals. So, what I developed was a service attitude of really partnering with animals to help them navigate whatever the bumpy parts were in their lives or their relationships with their people, and really focusing on sharing their messages as clearly and accurately as I possibly could. And I was continually refining that ability. And that was really important to me to not change the words, not censor it, not, um, water it down in any way. If they had strong words, I used those strong words. So those were things that I did well. What I didn't do well was I was really attached to outcomes and fixing things. I listened to the people and their version of what the situation was, and in my insecurity, I looked to the people for validation that I was a good animal communicator, that I was doing this right. Like, this is like, such old stuff from childhood, right? That was still there. So I had to work through all of those things and let go of outcomes and let go of what people's opinions were and let go of wanting to get confirmation or validation that what I was sharing was right or wrong, and not wrong. I didn't want to be wrong at all. Um, and that opened me up to be an even better animal communicator. This is, it's part of being human. These things are natural, but on the journey to become a confident animal communicator, these are the bumps in the road that we have to really address. And so I was on my own, stumbling around in the dark, kind of. And I don't want that for you. I want you to have a smoother, more clear, direct path. And my recommendation for you is that once you have that, you understand that you can do animal communication, you understand how you do animal communication. You start to really partner with animals to help them resolve the challenges in their lives. So that process typically takes at least 50 practice sessions of the more open-ended, non-stressful, kind of fun animal communication sessions, like just exploring who are you? What do you like? What do you dislike? How does this all work? And then after you've done that, then you can start practicing with animals in challenging situations, right? So you could start doing some aging sessions or some end of life or lost pets or behavioral challenges. These are things that are really important, really impactful, with really high stakes. If you get stuff wrong, the stakes are high. Mistakes can be made, and the consequences can be very dire. And so you don't want to start with those kinds of sessions early in the process. You want to work up to those gradually. So, and then once you do get up to that level, then practice each one really diligently so you get comfortable with all those topics that are common for people to come to animal communicators for. And they're potentially really uncomfortable situations. So you have to get comfortable with what makes most people uncomfortable. But raising the stakes too high too soon is a way to set yourself up for failure, to get blocked, to get stuck, to get discouraged, to quit. And I I I went through all of that because I did everything all at once. I didn't understand that there was, a gradual increase in the stakes of the situations. I just did everything together all at once. So it was a big old hodgepodge of all these things. And then I distilled these out. And that's why it took me so long because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know I was learning these skills or those skills or whatever. So but that's kind of the final phase. That's the really, to me, the advanced part of becoming a confident animal communicator is being able to be comfortable in these situations where the stakes are high, the questions are sensitive, the consequences are big, and you need to be able to really rely on staying grounded and centered and neutral and effective and accurate. And it takes a lot of time to do that. So, and that's where you develop the trust in the animals because you trust yourself and you trust the process. And those three things are completely intertwined: trusting the animals, trusting yourself, and trusting the process. So, my reflection question for you for this tip is how much do you trust the animals? Do you trust what you get? Do you trust yourself? Do you trust the process? How confident are you in that? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious. So, the fourth tip, this is kind of a global tip, but this kind of takes everything that I've been kind of hinting at so far and putting it all together. And I call this tip layer your learning. So, layer your learning like you're building a layer on top of a layer on top of a layer. Learn one thing at a time, master one level before you start the next. So what I did was I mixed everything up because I didn't have the awareness that there were these levels, like I just said. So one of the things, the mistakes that I made was having animal communication sessions that were beyond the skill level that I was really good at. And so that kept me in insecurity. It kept me doubting myself. It sometimes led to emotional upsets and some backsliding and some discouragement. And I didn't need to do it that way. I didn't know that. If I'd had a teacher, I probably wouldn't have. But the other thing that I did was I listened to the people more than animals. And I would say probably that was one of my faster lessons was to not trust people, to not even ask them anything, to just go in blind and see what showed up and what the animal had to say first. So I was insecure. I didn't trust the messages from the animals. I didn't trust myself. It took me literally years to really develop that confidence because I was all over the place. But what I did right and how I gained that confidence was I kept going. I put in hours with animals and people practicing in all those different situations. So instead of layering in my process, I packaged it all together in one big mushy bundle. But hey, I'm here now, so all good. Not to make myself wrong, but also to learn from what I did. That's why I wanted to make this video to share it with you. So I also practice with all kinds of animals. I practiced with bugs that were crawling on the table if I was sitting outside. I practiced with wildlife that I saw on my daily walks with the dogs. I practiced with my pets. I practiced with my friends' pets. I went to barns and talked to horses and dogs and ponies. And I just went and talked to every animal that I could, and I did it a whole bunch. And that was, I think, the best thing that I could have done, just putting in the time. So, my recommendation for you, based on what I've learned here, is to number one, raise the stakes slowly. Start, take little bites, start small. Don't go for, the big high stakes questions right in the beginning. Gradually work up to those. Um, that's how I gradually learned how to trust the animals more than the people, trust the messages from the animals, and to trust myself and my skills. So that's my recommendation. Spend time, go gradual, build the stakes slowly. So my question for you for this tip is, are you layering your learning or are you leapfrogging? Are you going from beginner to advanced? From I can do this to like the biggest stakes that there are? Let me know in the comments. Okay, now we're on number 5, the shift. So this is the shift that I had to make inside myself to really understand what was going on and how to make progress. And the shift was to understand that the learning process for this kind of work is not linear. You can't force it. And it involves your whole being, body, mind, spirit, and emotions. So, what I was really good at, because I had a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD, and I was in the middle of a second master's degree at the time, I was really good at mental learning, right? Like the regular kind of school learning, book learning. That was not going to help me here. This kind of learning requires intuitive learning, whole body learning. Nothing is off limits, nothing is separate, right? Like you can learn math without having to do a lot of, inner mindset work, probably, most of us. Um, so that was the first thing, was layering that and also understanding that this is a different kind of learning. And so what I've done in the past might help me, but it's not going to be enough. I need a different approach to learning this. um, Mastering one level first before progressing to the next. So those first 3 tips kind of follow beginner, intermediate, advanced. And if you really get solid beginner skills, then that makes the intermediate part where you're learning how to do it your own way just go so much more smoothly. And that makes the advanced part of partnering with animals to go more smoothly as well. There are no shortcuts. Is no leapfrogging. It's like it's a system that is so real and true. You can't fake it. You have to go through whatever you have to go through. So in like drawing classes, writing classes, math classes, teachers talk about pencil miles, right? Like your pencil on the paper, doing the work, doing the equations, writing the words, drawing the pictures, doing it over and over. And so what I learned was I had to put in the intuitive miles, right? I just had to show up and be there for the hours or however many hours it took. There's just no way around that with this kind of a skill because it's a whole being. It's your whole being. It's not even just your whole body. It's your whole everything about you is your instrument. Your whole being is your instrument for intuitive animal communication. So this is something that was very challenging for me because I was obviously, pretty good at the whole mental learning thing. And it's something that really a lot of my students bump up against as well because they're overachievers in certain areas and it doesn't translate. So if that's you, how can you embrace learning intuitive animal communication as being different from book learning or regular school learning? And I think one of the big challenges for us as adults learning something new is allowing ourselves to be a beginner again. Not just to have a beginner mindset, but to be a beginner. Like, I'm not good at this. I'm like failing or I'm making mistakes or whatever. It's not easy and natural. We're so used to being good at what we do by now that being a real beginner is really uncomfortable. So can you allow yourself to be a beginner again? in this new arena and learn how to learn in this new way. I think those are the keys to being successful at learning animal communication. So let me take all of this, distill it down to some really clear takeaways. So to summarize, the first thing I think you need to do is to make that mindset shift. So make that shift now and embrace whole being learning versus brain learning, book learning, school learning. That is the key. And with that comes embracing layering your learning. So first you need to set that strong foundation. That's the first layer. And in the Animal Communicator Academy, that's modules 1 through 4 is the beginner layer level to get you to that animal communication session breakthrough, that breakthrough session where you're like, oh, I am doing this. I know I'm doing this. And then you can embrace your unique approach. So once you know you can do it, then you get to explore what is it like for you. In the Animal Communicator Academy, this is what we do in Module 5. There's other parts in that module too, but the main thing is really, doing some discovery work on who you are and how your intuition works. And then and when you become an advanced student, then you really learn how to trust the animals and look to them to be your guides. Don't look to the people, don't look to your brain, your ego, or whatever. And in the academy, this is module 6 through 10. This is our advanced level. So going through that same process, and then, the ultimate result is that you can trust yourself, you can trust the animals, and you can trust the process of intuitive communication. So I hope that that summarizes it clearly. I hope that this has made you think. In the academy, we combine our animal communication skill training with our mindset skills and gradually increase the stakes. We've got live calls, we've got support groups, we've got practice groups, kind of all of the things that I've touched on in here are all in the academy. If you're interested in that, I'd love to share more about that with you in my Confident Animal Communicator Masterclass that's coming up this month. And in this workshop, it's free. You'll discover why most people get stuck learning intuitive animal communication and the simple trick that you can use to get unstuck, how to ensure your momentum and forward progress the easy way without getting blocked or discouraged, the number one mistake that most aspiring animal communicators make that keeps them from experiencing accurate, reliable animal communication and how to avoid it, and how to fast track your animal communication journey. That's really what the whole masterclass is about. And you'll walk away from the training feeling really energized and empowered and inspired and ready to become a confident animal communicator. There's a link below to register. There will be a replay. So if you can't make it at the time and day that it's scheduled, you can absolutely catch the replay. And in conclusion, I just want to, again, reach out to you and ask which of these 5 tips resonated with you the most? What can you do differently now? Let me know in the comments. And if this was helpful, please like and subscribe and share it and hit the bell to be notified of new videos if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening on the podcast. I don't know what you do there, but you can still subscribe, I guess. Um, and if there's an animal communication topic you'd like me to address, just leave a note in the comments and I will do that happily. If you are ready to have me as your mentor learning of animal communication, come and join me in the Animal Communicator Academy and become a confident animal communicator. And there is a link below, but you can also just go to caragubbins.com/ACA. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this inspires you. And I hope it gives you a greater understanding of the framework of becoming a successful, confident animal communicator. And if you've been stuck or blocked or discouraged, I hope that this gives you some insight into why that might have happened and what you can do. to get out of that and start making some progress again. The world needs you. The world needs animal communicators. The animals need you. So do this. If this is your dream, go for it. And I hope to connect with you again soon. Have a great day.